The chairs were cold, even through the thin fabric of her jeans. She noticed that first. Then the smell of disinfectant. Then the sound of a clock ticking far too loudly for a place where people came to pray for silence. Waiting rooms were strange like that. They held everything: fear, hope, exhaustion, love, yet asked everyone to sit still and behave as if nothing important was happening. She wrapped both hands around the paper cup of coffee, though it had already gone cold. Waiting rooms were never boring for her. They were heavy. They were honest. They were where hearts forgot how to lie. She glanced at the glass door when it opened again. That was when she saw her. She didn't look dramatic, no slow-motion entrance, no music cue, just a woman stepping inside, pausing as if unsure where to sit, clutching a small file close to her chest. Her eyes scanned the room, nervous, tired, searching. When their eyes met, it lasted only a second. But it stayed much longer than that. The woman chose the chair 2 seats away. Not too close. Not too far. Close enough to share the silence. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time didn't work properly in places like this. She took a small sip of coffee and made a face. "Bad?" the woman asked quietly. She looked up, surprised, then smiled. "Terrible, but I keep drinking it like it might improve." The woman's lips curved into a soft smile. "I think that's how waiting works too." That made her laugh, a real laugh, the kind that surprised even herself. "I'm Myra," she said, extending her hand without thinking. The woman hesitated for half a second, then took it. Her hand was warm. "Lena." Their hands parted, but the warmth stayed. "My mom's inside," Myra said gently, nodding toward the hallway. "Chemo day." Lena exhaled, as if she had been holding her breath for a long time. "My sister, surgery." No more explanation was needed. They both understood the language of hospital corridors. Silence returned, but it wasn't empty anymore. They sat like that, sometimes speaking, sometimes not. Myra learned that Lena hated elevators and loved old songs her father used to play. Lena learned that Myra always carried a notebook but rarely wrote in it anymore. When a nurse passed by, both of them looked up at the same time. When someone cried softly near the window, both of them lowered their eyes. Shared instincts, shared pauses. Hours later, Myra checked the clock inside. "You should go home," Lena said softly. "It's late." Myra shook her head. "I'll wait." "For what?" Lena asked. Myra smiled, not fully understanding it herself. "I don't know, I just wait." Lena nodded, as if that answer made perfect sense. That night when Myra finally left, the waiting room felt strangely quiet without Lena's presence. The next morning, Myra found herself arriving earlier than necessary. Lena was already there. They smiled at the same time. Days passed. Waiting rooms have a way of turning days into routines. Same chairs. Same vending machine. Same window where afternoon light always lingered. They began to save each other seats. They shared snacks, stories, silence. Sometimes Myra would talk about her childhood. Sometimes Lena would simply listen, her eyes kind and steady. Sometimes Lena spoke about her fears late at night, voice barely above a whisper. Myra never interrupted. She just stayed. One afternoon, Myra noticed Lena staring at the empty chair beside her. "You okay?" Myra asked. Lena nodded slowly. "Yeah, just scared of what happens after the waiting ends." Myra thought about that for a long moment. Maybe that's when life finally answers. Lena smiled sadly. "I hope it's a good answer." Their shoulders brushed. Neither moved away. Weeks passed. Hope arrived in small doses, good reports, smiles from doctors. One day, Myra arrived to find Lena laughing softly with another woman. The woman's hand rested on Lena's arm. Something inside Myra tightened. The laugh felt too intimate. The touch felt too familiar. Myra froze. She stood there longer than she should have. Lena looked up and saw her. Her smile faltered. Myra forced one back, thin and polite, then turned and sat far away. The waiting room felt colder than ever. When Lena approached later, Myra barely looked at her. "You left early yesterday," Lena said carefully. "You seemed busy," Myra replied. Lena frowned. "Busy?" Myra finally looked at her, eyes guarded. "I didn't realize I was just filling time." Lena's confusion deepened. "What are you talking about?" Myra stood, gathering her bag. "Never mind, waiting rooms aren't boring for everyone." She walked away before Lena could respond. That night, Myra didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, replaying every smile, every word. She felt foolish, assumptive, small. The next day, she didn't go to the hospital. On the second day, she tried not to. On the third day, she failed. Lena was sitting alone, eyes red, hands shaking slightly. Myra stopped a few steps away. Lena looked up. Relief flooded her face. "You disappeared," Lena said, voice breaking. "I thought you didn't want me there," Myra replied softly. Lena stood quickly. "That woman, she's my cousin. She flew in for the surgery. I didn't even think." Myra's breath caught. Lena stepped closer. "I wait for you," she said, "every day, even when you're not here." Myra swallowed hard. "I thought I didn't matter." Lena shook her head, tears forming. "You mattered too much. I was just afraid to say it." They sat down together, closer than ever before. Their hands met naturally, fingers intertwining. Neither pulled away. The clock ticked. For once, it didn't feel loud. When the nurse finally called Lena's name, she squeezed Myra's hand. "Stay," she whispered. "I will," Myra promised. When Lena returned hours later, tired but smiling, Myra was still there. Waiting. Just like she said. Weeks later, there were no more hospital visits. No more chairs. No more ticking clocks. But sometimes they still sat together quietly, hands linked, doing nothing at all. Because waiting rooms were never boring for Myra. They were where she learned that love doesn't rush. It waits. And when it's real, it stays.